Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zara and today I'm going to be doing a review of Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This book last year seemed to be like the darling of 2021. I feel like a lot of people were raving about it. It got a lot of positive attention. My friend Tim and I decided to pick it up because we wanted to buddy read something together. Project Hail Mary is essentially centering around our main character. At the start of the book, we don't really know what's going on. He wakes up from a coma and he is trying to basically deduce how he has got to where he's got to. We get a number of different flashbacks to kind of help illustrate him remembering the events that led him to the point that we get to at the start of the book. Kind of like a mystery sci-fi with some humor and some science thrown in. And I know this book got a lot of love, and I think my opinion is going to be a less popular opinion. So I'm just going to brace yourselves. So if you read this book and you really, really loved it, I'm not necessarily going to agree with you in all regards, but there were some things that I really did love about it. So let's start with the strengths. So with the strengths, the thing that I think the number one thing that I really loved about this book is the science behind it. You know, we're set in space. We are learning things as the character remembers certain things throughout the book. It's explained in a very friendly way to somebody who isn't necessarily like a physicist or an engineer. As somebody who is very interested in space and has done a lot of reading on it, I thought it was super accessible and I thought it really kind of captured my attention. And I think Weir does a really great job of making it feel like you're learning something, but not making it feel like academic or dense or like you're reading, you know, like a Wikipedia page or something. It was done really well, and while I don't know if the science really adds up, and I would be very interested to hear that from anyone who has read this book and is perhaps a scientist by background, as a physicist or an engineer or whatever, an astronaut even, I would be very curious to hear if the science stands up, because I'm not a scientist, but what I did read I really enjoyed, and I thought it was written really well as well, and it was very accessible, which I think is super key in sci-fi books. Otherwise it can often feel very info dumpy, which it didn't in this circumstance. The other thing that I really liked is the fact that the core part of this book is this kind of mystery element. We don't really know how the character has ended up where they have ended up. We don't even know the character's name at the beginning of the book, and as certain events and certain memories get revealed throughout the duration of the book, we can start to piece things together as we are learning with this character. I'm not really somebody who reads suspense or mysteries or thrillers or anything, but this reads as a thriller. I could definitely see this making a really good movie. I mean, I know Andy Weir wrote The Martian, which I've seen the movie multiple times. It's absolutely amazing. And I could definitely see this being a movie as well, because you can kind of create the images in your head. I think you'd be able to create the suspense really well as well if you had a good director behind it and a good writer behind it. But the mystery was just, you know, it was really satisfying. I really liked the way certain things were revealed as well. There's one particular point in the book that I was just like, I was just so like on the tip of my toes, where we, and I'm going to put a spoiler tag here in case you haven't read the book, where we actually first hear the knock on the door by the extraterrestrial life that is out there. I love that bit because it ends the chapter and I had to go to bed, and I had to go to bed because I had an early meeting the next day. But I was so excited to read it the next day, and like there was so much tension, and I thought it was done really well. So the mystery element, not something that I normally look for, but I loved it. I thought it was done really well, and I think Weir did a really good job of balancing out the mystery elements with the reveals as well, and it helped pace the story really well. And brings me on to the next thing that I liked. I think the book starts off quite slow, but the pacing really begins to pick up about a third of the way in. There are certain moments that really kind of like make you think, oh crap, like what is going to happen to this character and other characters. And I think the pacing just really hit the nail on the head. Like it really hit its stride. I think the pacing was really well executed. The last thing that I really liked is some of the kind of thematic work, I guess, that is done in this book. The main one that I really enjoyed is about how we humans have this innate need to build connection and seek meaning in the relationships that we have, and that is shown in both the present and the past. I'm not going to go into it more than that because I don't want to spoil it, but it really shows how we as human beings have this innate need to build meaningful relationships and connections with other individuals. There are multiple moments in the book that are just really touching and feel very special and quite intimate. I think that's quite hard to do, actually, is to create an intimate moment in a book where you're kind of on the outside like looking in. And yet it never really felt like I was looking in. I kind of felt like I was in that scenario with the main character. And it kind of, it brings something to it that I didn't really think I was expecting. And I was pleasantly surprised when I got it. And it made me think about how I crave certain connections in my own life. And I love a book that makes me think about my own life. So I really love that. I think it was a strength of the book that I wasn't really expecting, and I really, really enjoyed it. Weaknesses. The main thing that I really did not like about this book, and it really did impact my overall reading experience and my rating of this book, is the humor. The humor was completely off for me in this book. I have very dry, very sarcastic, pretty dark humor. You know, for me, humor lies in the subtleties and the details, whereas in this, the humor is super obvious. And it's just very much like in your face. If that's your humor, I can totally see why that would work for you. But as somebody whose humor is the complete antithesis of that, it just annoyed me at multiple points in the book. And it really turned me off, and I almost DNF'd it at one point, which, as you all know, if you've been watching my channel for a while, I very, very rarely DNF books. I think I've only DNF'd like 2 books in my entire life. And I was super close to DNFing it, but numerous people told me power through it. It does get better, like the humor still stays the same, but the actual plot of the book really picks up, and that kind of helps balance out the humor. Seb, one of my viewers, actually told me to stick on with it, and when he said that, I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to Seb. So thanks, Seb. I listened to you, and I'm really glad that I listened to him, because I really did enjoy the kind of tail end of the book. The middle and the tail end of the book I really enjoyed. The humor was still there, and it still really annoyed me, but again, the fact that the pacing was strong, the plot was strong, the characters were getting more interesting, balance out the humorous aspect, and I just kind of had to ignore it. If you're somebody who doesn't have that type of humor, you might struggle with it, so just bear that in mind as you read it. But again, if you're somebody who likes science and you like space and you like pretty character-driven works, then I think you can probably put up with it like I did in order to be able to get through the book, because I think it's worth it. I think the ending and the journey that we get to the ending is totally worth ignoring the humor and just reading past it. So overall, I gave this book a 3.75 stars. When I first started reading the book, it was like a 2.5. So it did pretty damn good to like move up the rating. But I think I'm going to stick with a 3.75 now and not give it a 4, because even though I liked a lot of aspects of it, there were certain things that the humor aspects of it really did impact it for me. If I just look at it holistically, I'm going to give it a 3.75. I'm also going to give kudos to the audiobook narrator. So I actually very rarely listen to audiobooks. I was reading this book initially and I was really struggling through it, and then Tim, my friend, actually suggested listening to the audiobook. So I picked up the audiobook, and the narrator does a really good job of doing the different characters and doing the different voices. It did make it somewhat easier for me to ignore the humor. If you can hear the wind, by the way, it's because we're in the middle of a storm in the UK, and my windows are quite old windows, and so you might hear some banging, so I apologize for that. The narrator did a fantastic job of just embodying the kind of different personalities. I think it just made it a lot easier for me to focus on the things that I did like about the book than on the things that I didn't necessarily like about the book. So overall, I really enjoyed it. Am I going to read more Andy Weir? Probably. I think I might read The Martian, because apparently The Martian is a little bit more darker in tone. Let me know if that is true or not, but I did hear from a couple of folks that it is a little bit more serious in tone, and I did really enjoy the movie. I think the movie is fantastic, so I might pick that up. I know he has another book as well, his debut book. I can't remember what it was called, and I might end up picking that up too. But yeah, he's definitely an author that I would like to read more of, because I think he did a really good job in this book. And while the humor and the initial pacing didn't really work for me, I can see why this is such a beloved book. So there we have it. Let me know what you think down below. I know a lot of people have read this book, so definitely let me know your opinions on it. I'm very excited to chat about it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like watching it and you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Every little helps. And I'll see you in the next video, folks. Stay safe, take care, and I will chat to you soon. Bye.